You know what's there? Immortality! Take it!
The ancient civilization of Greece thrived for centuries and gave us some of the greatest philosophical minds of all time.
The Greeks are praying for a safe return home. We should take it to the temple of Poseidon.
Father, burn it.
And they didn't stop there. They also introduced theater and democracy to the world.
This is Sparta!
So let's dive into some shocking things that took place in ancient Greece. Without making you wait more, let's start. Trojan War. The Trojan War is a tale that's kept scholars guessing for centuries. Some say it's pure myth, while others believe it happened, though maybe with some added drama. The story kicks off with the Greeks heading to Troy in modern-day Turkey, but they couldn't conquer the city because of its massive walls. So, the clever leader Odysseus came up with a crafty plan. Under his direction, the Greeks built a giant wooden horse and left it as an offering. The Trojans, thinking it was a genuine gift to their gods, brought the horse inside their city walls. Surprise! Hidden inside were Greek soldiers who snuck out at night and opened the gates for the Greek army which had secretly returned. This led to a brutal war, and the city was sacked and burned. Why did they do this? Well, there are many theories. The most famous one says that the Prince of Troy abducted the wife of the Spartan king, so this whole war was to rescue her and also take revenge for the insult. Death of Socrates. Socrates, born way back in the 5th century BC, is considered the founding father of Western philosophy. His ideas about ethics are still super relevant today when people talk about morality and the good life. Ironically, those same ideas led to his tragic end. The ancient Greeks were quite religious. Socrates, though, was more into reason and inner knowledge. He claimed to be guided by a divine voice that told him to question others. He spent most of his time with young Athenians, engaging in deep conversations that often exposed their lack of knowledge and challenged their assumptions. This didn't go down well with many in Athens. In 399 BC, they accused him of disrespecting the gods and misleading the youth. Athens was a bit of a mess back then, dealing with the aftermath of war and plague. His accusers argued that Socrates' actions were not just corrupting future leaders' minds, but also potentially adding to the region's instability. So, he was sentenced to death. He could have chosen exile, but instead drank hemlock poison, believing that even flawed laws should be respected. Socrates didn't leave any writings. His students Plato and Xenophon documented his ideas. Just imagine what other philosophical gems he might have shared if he hadn't been sentenced to death. Conquests of Alexander the Great. At just 20, after his father was assassinated, Alexander the Great took the throne and proved himself one of the greatest military commanders ever. Hearing that he conquered the vast Persian Empire and ruled from Greece to parts of northwest India, you might think he lived for decades, right? Well, that is not the case. Alexander didn't even make it to the 40s. In 323 BC, at just 32 years old, Alexander fell ill in the city of Babylon. He had a high fever, lost the ability to speak, and was bedridden for a few days before passing away. What exactly caused his condition is still a mystery. Some theories suggest he overindulged in food and wine, which might have aggravated a pre-existing illness or led to liver disease. Some believe his enemies poisoned him. This theory is speculative, but makes sense considering his growing success. Few even suggest he contracted an infectious disease like malaria or typhoid, considering his symptoms and the region. But in the end, Alexander's death remains a mystery. Sack of Corinth. Corinth, Greece, is home to numerous Roman Empire architectural remnants, but it was once a thriving Greek city. In 146 BC, the Romans captured it and did some truly terrible things to its inhabitants. The sack of Corinth was part of the Achaean War between the Roman Empire and Greek states. As the Romans overpowered the Greeks in the Battle of Corinth, many troops and residents fled the city. After winning the battle, the Romans waited 3 days before invading the entire city. They executed all the men still living in Corinth and enslaved the remaining women and children. They also destroyed buildings and temples, and much artwork was either stolen or burned. The sack of Corinth became the end of Greek independence and marked the start of Roman dominance. Battle of Lucra. For centuries, Sparta was an unbeatable city-state. Anyone who dared challenge them got crushed. They also had a rough relationship with a smaller city-state, Thebes, but in the 4th century BC, both decided it was time to stop fighting and make peace after decades of on and off conflict. Thebes signed the treaty alone, but Sparta included their allies' names, which made Thebes want to add their allies too to look stronger. Sparta refused, and Thebes, in a fit of rage, scrapped the treaty and declared war on Sparta again. Everyone thought Thebes was done for. Sparta came prepared with an army of about 11,000 hoplites, while Thebes had only 7,000. But Thebes had a brilliant general, Epaminondas, who had a few tricks up his sleeve. Against all odds, Thebes won a shocking victory at the Battle of Lucra. Epaminondas weakened his center and right flanks and put his best troops on the left. The Spartans expected the main attack in the center and charged there, only to be smashed by Epaminondas's strong left wing. Spartan King Cleombrotus was killed, and his army faced a crushing defeat. This battle marked the end of Sparta's long-lasting dominance in Greece. The myth of Sparta's invincibility was shattered, all because Thebes threw a tantrum and their general had a genius strategy that's still studied in military history today. Beginning of Greek theater. While you can sit on your couch and choose from thousands of shows on Netflix, ancient Greece didn't have that luxury. But don't think they lacked entertainment. You should thank them because they invented theater as a form of escapist entertainment and civic engagement, and it played a central role in ancient Greek society. These theaters were mostly built into hillsides, with a semicircular seating area rising from the circular center called the orchestra, where the performances happened. The main genres were tragedies, comedies, and satyr plays. Women could attend, but weren't allowed to perform. These orchestras were designed so well that they offered perfect acoustics, allowing performers' voices to reach thousands of spectators. Did you know the first actor in the world was from ancient Greece? In the 6th century BC, Thespis stepped out of the chorus to deliver dialogue, making him the first ever actor. He used different masks and props to portray various characters, bringing a significant shift in theatrical performances. So next time you binge-watch shows, remember that in ancient Greece, actors performed for thousands with just their voices and no retakes. Creating currency. Did you know that the first coin currency can be dated back to ancient Greece? Currency existed before that, of course, but coin currency is thought to have started around Ionia in Asia Minor, or Lydia, where the oldest coins have been found to date. These coins were made of gold and silver and can be dated back to around 600 BC. Later on, each city had its own coin with a unique design. How cool is that? Cult of Pythagoras. Remember that a square plus b square equals c square, which you learned in high school? While the theorem lives on and reaches almost everyone at some point, the life of the guy who came up with it, Pythagoras, is shrouded in legends. There are no original writings from him, but he did form an entirely new sect. You could call it a group of philosophers and mathematicians, but to some, it seemed like a cult with mystical beliefs surrounding numbers and math. Pythagoras believed in sacred math and that the universe had a deep connection with numbers and music. His followers, the Pythagoreans, worshipped numbers, practiced vegetarianism, and strongly believed in reincarnation. To them, Pythagoras was a divine prophet who could predict the future. There were legends that his thigh was golden and that a river once spoke to him. Another tale claims he traveled to the underworld and when he came back, knew exactly what everyone had been up to while he was gone. He claimed to have been reborn multiple times and could remember all his past lives, fueling the reincarnation belief among his followers. Given his significant contributions to philosophy, math, and astronomy, it's unlikely Pythagoras himself made these wild claims. They were probably the work of his obsessed followers trying to present him as a divine authority and persuade others to join their number-worshipping cult. Much of Pythagoras' actual life and even his death remains mysterious, with details only known through his followers, often conflicting accounts, adding to the enigma. Disappearance of Empedocles. Now let's dive into the story of a philosopher who was born in Sicily, where Pythagoras started his cult. No surprise, he joined the cult too, but legend has it that he was accused of copying Pythagoras' works in his poetry and got kicked out. So he set off on his journey and proved himself as a great philosopher, making significant contributions to our understanding of the universe. There's also a wild story, though unproven, that he revived a dead woman after 30 days. While that might be a stretch, his belief that good men could turn divine after death, much like the Pythagoreans, was widely accepted. He also deeply believed in reincarnation. Driven by this belief, he wanted to reincarnate before he got too old. One day, he vanished without a trace. His followers, unable to find him, decided to search Mount Etna because he had mentioned jumping into it. They found nothing at first, but later spotted his bronze sandal on the mountain. So it seems he took a leap of faith, hoping for reincarnation, although other philosophers strongly discouraged such actions, saying the gods wouldn't approve. Archimedes' death ray. Widely regarded as the father of mathematics, Archimedes is also one of the most well-known inventors of ancient Greece who lived in Syracuse during the 3rd century BC. His ideas and principles are still used today, but one invention that has intrigued people for centuries is his heat ray. It's said that during the siege of Syracuse, when Roman ships were approaching the coast, Archimedes invented a war machine that could set them on fire using just mirrors. The idea was that multiple mirrors focused sunlight from different angles onto the Roman boats. Some people doubt this could happen, and it was even tested on Mythbusters with 500 people using mirrors, but they failed to light the boat. However, in other experiments with the right calculations, people have managed to make it work. Archimedes might have used some kind of natural lens to focus the beam more precisely, which could indeed cause a fire. So, while the exact details remain a bit of a mystery, the concept is definitely within the realm of possibility. Olympics. The entire world is preparing for the next Olympic Games in Paris, but did you know the original Olympic Games began in Olympia, Greece, more than 2,500 years ago? People from all over Greece would travel to watch these games held every 4 years. Unlike today's Olympics, there were no medals. Winners received a wreath of leaves and, of course, a hero's welcome back home. But these games weren't just for fun. They were also a religious event dedicated to Zeus. Athletes who won were seen as being touched by the gods. One thing I find fascinating is that before the games began, a messenger was sent out to announce a sacred truce, allowing spectators and players safe travel to Olympia. Colossus of Rhodes. In the city of Rhodes on the Greek island, there once stood the tallest statue in the world. This giant structure, the statue of the sun god Helios, was roughly the same height as the Statue of Liberty, from her foot to her crown. The ancient people of Rhodes built this colossus to celebrate their successful defense against enemies. But just over 50 years later, the statue toppled after some natural disasters hit the island. The broken pieces of the statue remained for a few centuries until the Arabs invaded the land in the 7th century and broke it down further to take the bronze scraps with them. Oracle of Delphi. The remains of one of the most sacred spots for ancient Greeks still exist on Mount Parnassus in Delphi, Greece. This sanctuary was dedicated to Apollo, who along with other things is also considered as the god of truth and knowledge. From commoners to kings, all types of people would travel to Delphi seeking advice on everything from war and politics to personal issues and, most importantly, the future. The way folks believed they were getting messages from Apollo is the wild part. There was an oracle known as Pythia who would go into a trance. People thought she was possessed by Apollo and would spout prophecies. Often, her words didn't make much sense, so other priests had to interpret her messages for those seeking guidance. The first Pythia was said to be a young maiden, but over time, older women took on the role. Turns out, the trance state wasn't some mystical possession. Scientists discovered that the chamber where Pythia sat was built over a geological fault that released alcoholic gases. So, the hallucinating priestess was likely just high on those vapors, probably in a permanent narcotic state. So all this time, Apollo wasn't chatting with them, just a high woman speaking her mind. Yet many of her prophecies did come true, so who knows? Aspasia of Miletus. Ancient Greeks had great minds, but society was still very patriarchal. However, there were still a few famous women in history. Aspasia was born in Miletus and grew up with educational opportunities. When she arrived in Athens, where women weren't considered intellectuals, she became a controversially famous figure. First, she became the companion of a powerful Athenian politician, Pericles, who couldn't marry her formally since she wasn't from Athens, but they had a son together. Renowned for her intelligence and wit, she formed her group for philosophical discussions, with famous people like Socrates and Plato known to participate. She introduced the idea of schools for females in Athens, long before any such schools existed. Though her foreign origins, unconventional relationship with Pericles, and influence on Athenian politics brought criticism and accusations, Aspasia stands as a symbol of a woman who challenged social norms and made her way into the intellectual circles of ancient Athens. Ucini Mysteries. Next up, let's dive into the mysterious celebrations and rituals of an ancient Greek cult, so secretive that the word mystery actually comes from their hidden rites and doctrines. The participants vowed never to reveal what happened during these rituals, and even today, no one knows the exact details. The festival kicked off every year in early September in Eleusis, a town 14 miles from Athens. These rites were connected to the sacred story of the god Demeter and his bittersweet separation from his daughter Persephone and their joyous reunion. The day before the Eleusinian Mysteries began, the priestesses of Demeter and Persephone carried baskets of sacred objects on their heads and walked to the temple of the goddess in Athens. Then, they made their way to Eleusis with thousands of initiates following behind them. But once they reach Demeter's sanctuary, the details get fuzzy. It's believed that during the first few days, initiates wandered in the dark, confused and disoriented, to mimic Demeter's feelings when his daughter was lost. They then entered a building, many still fasting and silent, to identify with Demeter's grief. Next, they were given a special drink called kykeon, which supposedly contained hallucinogenic drugs that put them in a trance, similar to LSD. Some scholars think the secrets involved horrific acts like assault or even the murder of a young maiden to depict Persephone's abduction. While that's not proven and what happened remains a mystery, historical accounts suggest that those who witnessed these mysteries were extremely shocked and claimed it transformed them. Building of Parthenon. Let's end our trip with a marvel of ancient Greek architecture, a building often shown when talking about ancient Greece, the Parthenon. This temple in Athens was built during the golden age of the city. The huge Doric columns show strength, and the magnificent sculptures decorated this temple, which also served as a treasury for the city's wealth. This building is a testament to the complex engineering knowledge the ancient Greeks possessed. Works of Homer. The epic tales from ancient Greece, the Iliad and the Odyssey, are still captivating reads and inspire many plays. These literary works are attributed to the famous ancient poet Homer, believed to be a blind man born sometime between the 12th and 8th centuries BC. But not much is known about him. Was he even a man? No one knows for sure. Even the time he supposedly lived is just a guess. Many scientists think Homer wasn't a single person, but a group of poets who used the name Homer. So, One of history's greatest literary authors might not have even existed. If you have read Homer's epic poems, this new info might make you question everything you thought you knew about him. Antira Mechanism. In 1901, divers went to explore a shipwreck off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, and came back with an odd metal structure. Initially, no one thought much of it. But when a scientist discovered this ancient artifact dating back to the 2nd century BC had gears, the scientific community was intrigued. Why? The first known mechanical calculator with gears and wheels was invented in the 17th century. It turns out this device was not just any basic calculator, but a piece of technology way ahead of its time. It was likely used to track the positions of the sun and moon, and it could also predict the positions of planets and stars, and even when eclipses are going to happen. Based on its 4-year cycle dials, it might have also been used to track the ancient Olympics. Who built this and how it worked is still a mystery, and with many of its parts missing, scientists are still trying to piece it together to understand the knowledge ancient Greeks had. Medical practices. Correct diagnosis is the basic step to proper treatment. Today, laboratories use our bodily fluids to determine our health conditions, including blood tests and urinalysis. The ancient Greeks also knew a lot about a person's health could be told by bodily fluids, but they lacked the technology and knowledge to test these samples. So, they made use of natural testers, human taste buds. Yes, this sounds gross, but there are reports that in ancient Greek medical practices, people would taste earwax and even urine to diagnose what was wrong with a person. Battle of Marathon. King Darius of the Persian Empire decided to expand his kingdom into Greece at the beginning of the 5th century BC. But the Greeks in Ionia started rebelling, so King Darius sent an army to take care of the business. Athens and Eretria decided to help their Greek brothers, so the Persian king decided to conquer them as well to stop any further resistance. The combined Greek armies met on the plains of Marathon, heavily outnumbered, but instead of hiding behind city walls, they decided to face the Persians head-on, a move that shocked the entire world. Against all odds, they managed to fend off the Persian army with great military strategy. They made their center strong, and when the Persian army was busy attacking from the sides, the Greeks infiltrated, causing panic. The Persian army, realizing they were doomed, broke ranks and retreated, showing that the Greeks had what it took to defend their lands. So, which of these events did you find most interesting? And do you have a personal favorite event from ancient Greece? Let me know in the comments. Also, make sure to subscribe, and hit that bell, so you get notified every time we post a video just for you.